specifically to be weak, 22 chromosomes instead of 23, to, if we were mining gold in the past, to maybe perhaps continue that slave existence to, say, a monetary system where they're controlling our energy, so we are literally in some psychosis of viewing our own energy with how much money we have. It seems to me that we're already on some type of a slave system already, but for what purpose? And, you know, a lot of people, we can get too far into speculating tonight. We can go all over the map. I mean, we can just throw out any type of potential ideas out there, but I don't think we want to underestimate the power of those that might have been deceiving humanity for a very long time. A lot of people speculate on what the end game is, on the idea they're going to kill 80% of us. But if there is some sort of a return of the gods, and where this is some continuation of something that happened in the past, basically, with the modification of man and the gods mating with the earth women, it would make sense to me that we would be harvested for something as fuel. Now I'm going way out there, and it sounds like something from the Matrix. But if some type of scenario like that really is going on, and this is some sort of an alien conspiracy, and they're over-sexualizing our young, and they're putting all this stuff on the media that's warping their consciousness, trying to engineer man to operate more out of his reptilian mode, to stay in fear and aggression and things of that nature, with stage wars going on all over the planet, you know, it really raises the large question, what's really going on here? So there's another variables to go into with that. I never really felt that it was my part to even get into the alien stuff years ago when I started the show. It's always been a fascination for mine, the larger picture. For years, I've tried to keep it down to this level. As I go into future shows, I think I'm going to have more people on sharing different perspectives on things, because I think there's a lot of questions that we still have. I'm going to do my best to be objective in it, though, and that's not always easy when I certainly have an opinion on certain things. But shows like this certainly are supposed to be the platforms for guests like that provide information along those levels. That's why Michael Tellinger, you put together a great presentation today. A lot of you guys missed it, but some of you that do watch the show, I think there was 5 or 6 that were there. I mean, Portland needs to have more speakers just like that, providing different perspectives. So email me at alex_ansary@hotmail.com. That's me and him a couple hours ago near Hawthorne after the show, getting some Thai food. But certainly, email me at alex_ansary@hotmail.com when there are interesting speakers coming to town, whether it deals with things of an extraterrestrial origin, whether it deals with the dollar collapse, whether it deals with 9/11, whether it deals with a perspective on 2012, because I think a lot of this stuff does tie together. Now, some of us have come from different belief systems, Islam, Christianity, but we're all looking at this with the intention of learning more information about ourselves, but also for those of us that do believe in a supreme creator and putting our maybe religious perspectives aside, that's what's more important, to realize that there is a larger force around us, that we ourselves are filled with energy, and that comes from somewhere. That sacred geometry that's all in nature, that comes from some sort of a brilliant architect of this matrix. And so for whatever reason, we're on a planet that is very hospitable to humans, perhaps some say too much, but we are here at this time, billions of us. Instead of viewing ourselves as viruses or the dirtiest of the dirtiest and the lowest of the low, you've got to start to see the beauty that does exist within us, and admit that there's a lot of levels out there, a lot of mind control, a lot of games that people are in, dimensions of illusions that people are in, but I don't believe that's our true self. I believe that underneath that, I mean, there is a soul inside these bodies that obviously is supposed to be here to learn some sort of a lesson. So I look at my own lessons, my own challenges, my own experiences. A lot of what makes me and what makes me tick comes from not this news, but the thoughts in my own head, my own dreams, my own feelings since I was a kid, my own experiences in the strange world, and how it kind of led me on this very unique path to where I'm convinced, man, I'm not the only designer of my own life. I'm a co-creator, but I'm not the primary director of every little thing that Alex Ansary goes through, which is simply, by the way, my birth name, not even who I really am. So I identify with being a soul on this planet, just trying to evolve to the next level, do the best thing, not involve myself in the wars that are going on right now and the wars that might be popping up in the future, and try to convince as many people as I can, get out of those wars, unplug yourself from the matrix, pull that cord back, and start to access more portions of your brain. To put it out there that you want to start accessing more portions of your brain, that you want to be a light body, to at least put that out there, because you've got nothing to lose from trying to strive to be the very best in your own community, in your own life, in your own world. You've got nothing to lose turning away from the fast foods of the world and turning off this television if you're not watching something that's truly conscious, not just sitting there allowing whatever they're throwing at you to go into their subconscious, to go into your own mind, your own biological computer here. So we got to be responsible for those environmental factors out there, staying away from us and protecting ourselves and invoking that bubble of protection. And I don't see anything wrong with believing in such things. And the more you invoke the power of the Supreme Creator, the Being, to give you power to do what's right, as long as you're walking in the light and being selfless, there's no harm in that. But once you start going in the area, though, of trying to manifest things for yourself just because you want them, physical things, because, well, you want something, because we're taught to be materialistic, then we're out of balance. And I feel The Secret does this. The Secret's a film that goes in the law of attraction, but it's all about, here's how you can manifest through thought the perfect boyfriend. Here's how you can manifest the perfect house. Here's how you can manifest this. And there's a lot of different other things that are in the film, and it doesn't even really address the war situation, genocide, things like caring for your fellow man and speaking out against horrendous things no matter what anybody thinks about you. It doesn't even get into that. It's all based in personal self stuff. And me, I can't really associate with that and don't really want to manifest anything along those lines in terms of candy and bubbles and cotton candy and fancy cars, unless it's the Creator's will, divine will for me. And the question is, when we go out there wanting something, do we just go out there trying to manifest it? Or, of course, do we say, divine will, not mine, be done? First and foremost, before anything else comes into manifestation. But we can also do that for the light, not just for things that we want, but I mean to invoke things like that when we're trying to face this darkness that's coming up over the hill. And we invoke that, I walk in the light, divine will, not mine, be done. I'm not going to be afraid of what happens in my fleshly body. I'm going to do what's right for myself and others, and whatever happens in this world, I'm going to leave this body with no regrets and walk energetically in that state of consciousness from here on out, with my sword of light slashing through the demons in my midst that we can now clearly identify, because we're here to bounce them out of this nightclub because it's their time to go. It's 2:30, okay? And so a lot of us are waking up to that point, that our awareness of them and what's going on is important in this awakening, to keep people, of course, looking in areas towards the light. When it comes to ETs, of course, I can't tell you what light beings are out there or give you their name, but the intention of trying to connect with something greater than what we are is very important. And I don't believe that we have to have a specific name attributed to these things, but there is so much stuff out there that sounds religious, that's under the guise of New Age, based in certain deities. And I'm not saying that there aren't names out there of certain angels that aren't in existence, but I mean, it's more about where your heart's coming from and where you're vibrating. Because in the end, we can get very much into the game of debating and arguing over some of these concepts. I'm going to go ahead and read some of these articles here. Bill, do we have any? And we have several minutes left to go. George Soros warns China of global currency war. Mr. Soros, the hedge fund manager, best known as the man who broke the Bank of England after he made $1 billion betting against the value of sterling on Black Wednesday in '92, said that China had created a lopsided currency system, criticizing China for deliberately keeping the yuan, its currency, low in order to keep exports cheap, which is hurting U.S. competitors. And there's a lot to say about that, but we are seeing China moving in the direction of leading the new world order currency. China's ready to push yuan as global reserve currency. This is from AP. Since April 2009, according to DBS Global Research, China's foreign exchange reserves has risen by U.S. $535 billion. That's more than half of the total increase, $962 billion, of the foreign reserves in Asia. And after reading 6 years of news, probably really incrementally, I'd say mostly news on China the last 3 years, I'm hoping to put together a film consolidating a lot of this information to be released sometime in 2011. That way I can stop talking about it week after week on the show and simply refer people to the website where the film is featured. But it connects with that article as well about the new leadership in North Korea. North Koreans and the Chinese are allies. They are military allies, and they both have gotten technology from the West that have got them where they are today. China is hungry for California's grapes. I mentioned that briefly. This is from the Business Times in San Francisco. As China's economy grows, it isn't just sucking in barrels of oil, but it's also importing millions of boxes of grapes grown in California. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger's office called attention to this news this week after his recent trade trip to China and Korea. There's also articles coming out about Oregon's grapes as well in China, as not only Kulongoski, but Adams. Kulongoski and Adams are both frequently going to China as well, and there's a number of Chinese guests that are traveling to Portland every now and then, rubbing elbows with our mayor. So all very interesting. White House doubts need to halt all foreclosures, and in the end, who's to say the Chinese aren't going to own these very banks that are technically owning these homes? But a top White House advisor questioned the need Sunday for a blanket stoppage of all home foreclosures, even as pressure grows on the Obama administration to do something about mounting evidence that the banks have used inaccurate documents to evict homeowners. So that's in the news as well. High unemployment rate, new normal for U.S., says Joseph Stiglitz. This is from the People's Daily. Joseph Stiglitz, he used to work for the World Bank, I believe. And then, of course, we have this one, food prices to rise globally as energy prices edge higher. This is from Natural News. Rising energy prices and a shift to Western consumption patterns will continue to push global food prices higher in the coming decade, according to the annual agricultural outlook issued by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. And the last headline, and I wish I had more time to get into detail, and also the disinformation that's in some of these headlines, we have this one, and I've seen this at three or four different publications in the last 2 weeks. Chinese children line up for mass measles inoculations. They are going to vaccinate 100 million babies in China. They have just announced it, and they're already lining up. Now, there's massive opposition rising in China due to the information that's come out about what's in the vaccine. A lot of that did come from the West. A lot of that stuff was discussed last year on the show with vaccines and the push to vaccinate people for H1N1. But it really raises a larger question. What are they really being given? Is this some sort of a depopulation measure? Or are they being injected potentially with some sort of a chip or Rambo chip that could be activated years later when they're older in some sort of a chaotic war situation where they're sending their troops out all over the world? And we look at the Chinese troops today, and of course I'm not talking about all of the Chinese people or putting down the Chinese culture, but something is certainly going on in China today. They're getting their people ready for some sort of a major conflict in the future. It's going to require them to be overseas. So when we see articles like this come out about their military, about what they're doing to their children, and of course these things going on with the currency, it raises many questions about what the next game is going to be played out on the people, the next level of this World War III situation, which some say has already really started with with Iraq and Afghanistan in 2003, but is now going to expand to the rest of the world with what's going on with Iran and the attack on Iran, leading to World War III involving China and Russia, which are both allied against the U.S. in the event of that type of a scenario. So we're going to have